Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a prototype copy of Vendel the Viking. It's the prequel to PAX Viking, and it's a game published by Ion Game Design. Rome has fallen and the map of Europe is being rewritten. People and power are both traveling to new places as this is a time of change and for opportunities. This time is known as the Vendel Era, approximately 550 to 790 of this common era. This era was a time of culture and technologies which eventually led to the Viking Era. Expeditions started, trade increased, and the families that were to rule the Vikings grew in power. Now, you represent one of these families and your goal is to evolve through 250 years to become the most influential for when the Viking Era starts. The game is for 1 to 6 players, and although the game has a similar touch or feel as PAX Viking, it's a totally different game. They just try to keep a similar style to match the games together as you can play them back to back, and the end of Vendel the Viking sets up the beginning of PAX Viking. So the game is played over 12 rounds where players take turns in turn order. Each round represents roughly 25 years. On a player's turn, they will perform one action at a time, and players will take turns doing this. All players have 4 total actions that they can perform in a round, and some actions take 1 action to perform while others take 2 actions and maybe even 3. If it becomes your turn and you have performed your 4 actions for that round already, your turn is skipped and it will continue to the next player until all players have performed 4 actions total in the round. You just perform the actions themselves one at a time. There are 2 types of actions in the game. Basic actions, which all family members can perform, and talent actions, which only certain family members with the matching talent icon can perform. At the end of each round, a generation shift occurs, and the player with the least amount of cards in their family tree will become the first player, and the board is reset for the next round. You want to gain the most influence points during the game, and you do this by gaining achievement standees on this generation board or ancestry board. You want to complete mission cards when you get them off the family member board. Also for having majorities on ventures out on the map at the end of the game, and lastly through some of the venture abilities. These are the venture tiles with the star icon on them, and they will come out giving you in-game points. So players each have their own family tree board, which is different from all other players. This is a small asymmetric start to the game, but players all have access to the same amount and number of family members in general, except for the ones that you unlock as you place cards on your family board. Specific family members and mission cards are placed on your board during setup. Each player will get to decide which level and difficulty that they want their mission cards to be as they place them out. Once a card is placed on that section, starting from the bottom and following the lines up to the other slots, they will unlock the missions or family members on those spots. On the family tree board, each player will also have a unique ability that only they can perform that is different from player to player. So try to add that into your strategy as well. During setup, in turn order, players will choose an unoccupied location to be their home, and their home marker will be placed above the name of that location, followed by a venture tile. There are 2 locations that cannot be used as your home at the beginning, as they are unique and they count as being in 2 regions until you choose which one they belong to. This location, your home, acts as if you have another family member present for majority reasons, but you can't actually use it for an action like you would an actual family member. During setup, players will gain some money according to their starting turn order position. 3 piles of venture tiles are in 3 piles according to their regions. Formidable cards are placed out on the market board. Players have their family members placed in piles on their family board, and 2 longships are being placed in their section waiting to be used as well. And the achievement standees are placed in their matching spot on the ancestry board. Okay, now to get a good feel of the game, let's go over some of these actions. There are basic actions that any exhausted family member can perform, and then there are talent actions that are specific to certain types of family members. After taking an action, that family member becomes exhausted and is flipped over. Once exhausted, they cannot be used for an action until they are reset on the following round. So to help with the lingo in the game, adventure is one of these circle tiles, and having majority means having more family members on that tile than all other players, except for on someone's home where they have a +1 from their home tile. There are 3 regions on the map, and if you have at least one majority in a region, then you have presence in that region, and your home always counts as having presence in its region. Okay, so first, let's talk about the journey action. You'll place and exhaust one of your family members onto a location in a region where you have presence. This will be in a region of your home when starting the game, but can change as the game progresses. You can journey to any location, including places outside of where you have presence. Also, this includes any empty locations on the board, but it will cost additional actions when journeying to regions without presence and regions without venture tiles out yet if you want to place one of those out. The family member can be taken from anywhere, but most likely from your supply, but later in the game can be taken from other locations. When journeying, it takes a cost of 1 action to take one of your family members from anywhere to place on a new spot when within a region that you already have presence in. It costs 2 actions to move a family member in a region that you have presence in while also adding a new venture tile to that spot as well. It costs 2 actions to move a family member in a region you don't have presence, placing that family member in that new slot. This could be a spot without a venture tile on it yet, or a spot that already has a venture tile placed out from before. It costs 3 actions to move a family member from anywhere onto a region where you don't have presence and also add a new venture tile to that board. So it costs 1 action to journey. It costs another action to journey to a new region where you don't have presence, and it costs another action to place a venture tile down. You can use any of those kind of within each other. Also, when you're doing these actions, you will use your long ships in addition to represent that you're taking additional actions. When you don't know how many actions you have performed, you will count how many of your family members are flipped over, plus how many long ships are out on the board. When you add a long ship, that is just representing you taking an additional action to perform that other action. Now, with all of these types of journey actions, you will flip the family member token that did the action over after journeying to a new spot. So this is how you can get family members out on the board and also move family members around the board. Next is the invest action. You will exhaust a family member that's on a venture tile where you have a majority. That is oftentimes the key. You have to have majority. You will then buy a formidable card from the market. The icon which represents their talent shown on the card has to match the talent from the exhausted family member's talent icon, and the location where the formidable card is located has to match the venture location. And then you have to pay for the card, paying the cost shown on the space under the card slot on the market board. So you have to do a lot of planning to make sure that you line up all these things. And you won't just be doing it for one, but as many as you can. So always keep an eye out on what locations and talents are shown on these formidable cards as they come out into the market. Players can plan out getting cards that pop out from the top and move them down into the market to a lower cost to then perform this invest action so that you have a family member of the matching talent on the venture card that is in the same location as the formidable card, and you have enough money to pay for it. Obviously, the lower the cost, the better off it is for you. The market is refreshed by then sliding cards sideways or downwards to create an opening on the top row and placing a card from the pile on top. This shifting of cards will help you place cards that you want in a less expensive slot to help you in the future. So you want to move cards that you want in the future slots that show less money, but also prevent cards other players might want from becoming cheaper. And you want them to pay more for the ones that they want. The chosen card is placed on your family tree in one of the bottom slots or in a slot that is linked by a previously placed formidable card. If there is a family member or card in the location that you place your formidable card in, then you gain it. If a family member, it's added to your supply. If it's money, then you gain it. If it's a mission card, you will get to turn it over and place it in your hand, and you now have a goal to try to accomplish before the end of the game. Doing so, you can gain additional influence. The last step of this action is to move your exhausted family member from the map to the ancestry board, as this family member has now become an ancestor. You will put it on the core spot matching its talent, or to a spot linked to the matching ancestor. You can put it on one of the advanced achievement spots if you have the most or tied for the most ancestors in both linked talent spots. Now, to put it on an epic achievement spot, you need to have the most or be tied for the most ancestors in both link spots, and there has to be ancestors of at least 2 different talent types to be allowed to advance. For future achievements, you want to have the most or be tied for the most of ancestors in the 3 linked spots. You will gain any achievement standee, if there is one there, and these will give you a one-time powerful action which you can perform, and if you do, it is done immediately. Each standee also grants you points during the in-game scoring according to how far out they are. The bronze, they are worth 4 points each, and the silver are worth 6 points each. Both of those have special actions that you gain in addition, and the gold is worth 8 points, but it doesn't have an ability connected with it. These special actions let you do things like gaining family members, or gaining more actions, or reorganizing the formidable cards how you want, or letting you activate venture cards, or letting you remove all the player's family members in one location. They all have their perks. This action is important to get on the ancestor board to score those points. I will explain this during the in-game scoring, but players will need to use this action to get on that board and collect standees, and also compete or block other players from doing so themselves. This can also require a lot of planning, because in order to expand after getting the first ancestor of a type on the board, you have to have other family members on there first. So you will probably plan an awesome move, and then you will realize that you actually don't want to invest with that formidable card yet until you first invest with another one of a specific talent first. That will then set you up so that you can then invest in that earlier one to collect a standee and expand on the board. There is some strategy in how to build out on this board, but sending family members over to the ancestry board when they are close to each other is a good aim, and then realizing which type you want next. Sometimes placing your first 3 of different types will give you a good base before growing out, but you most likely don't want to focus on family members with specific talents who aren't close together, because you won't be able to expand out to gain those achievements. The last basic action is the activate action. You will exhaust a family member on a venture where you have majority to activate the ability listed on that venture tile. These abilities can be different, like giving you additional money depending on the state of the board in different ways. Some can let you place or move family members around the board. Others let you change cards, locations, or really a bunch of stuff to gain some type of advantage or to help set up an invest action or other action. These abilities can help you with a strategy or give you additional guidance of what you should do to develop in the game. But no one owns these tiles or actions, and they can be performed by any player who has majority on that venture tile. Now, those are the 3 basic actions, and again, any family member can perform them. Let's now talk about the talent actions that match the icon for each family member. So of course, to do these actions, you have to exhaust a specific family member of a certain talent icon, flipping it over. The merchant action, you will exhaust to gain 1 money per region where you have presence. This could be up to 3. Then draw 3 formidable cards. You will choose one to replace one of the formidable cards in the top row of the market and discard the other 2. You can also then pay 2 money to discard any 1 formidable card from the market and refresh the market. Using this ability can help you get you some money, help you get some new cards that you might want. Say you really need a certain talent to show up that you can take advantage of with an invest action, then this action will get that card out. This action also can help disrupt the plans of other players by discarding a card they probably most definitely are going for in the market. The shipwright action. You will exhaust to move the shipwright family member and up to 2 other family member tokens along with it to any location. If you move to another player's home or to a region where you have no presence, you will add a longship in addition, costing you an additional action. This action will not add a venture tile onto the board. This is a good action to use to get majority somewhere, but also to get a specific family member, which could be the shipwright or one of the other tokens that it has in the same tile to be placed on a different tile. Again, this might be an action to perform just prior to an invest action if you are bringing along a family member who can invest in a new location, and that other family member won't be exhausted, just the shipwright. The warrior action. You will exhaust to kill one other player's family member from the location where your warrior is at. If you have more than one warrior, say 2 or 3, and they are unexhausted warriors in that location, you can remove 2 or 3 family members of another player in that action. The killed family members return to that family's supply, or certain tiles can come out where they might gain in-game points. So the warriors become strong when together, and this is a good action to do to remove another player in an area or in their own area. Maybe you need majority to take advantage of that venture card's ability, or that you want to invest there before they do. The settler action. Exhaust to place one exhausted family member of your choice to the location where the settler is at. This will help you gain a specific family member to the same location where your settler is located, and maybe you can later invest there. The leader action. Exhaust to take 1 money from a player who is on the same tile as you. Then, if you want, you can exchange the venture on the map with the topmost of the corresponding region pile. This will let you get out better venture tiles, or possibly help you take away venture tiles that another player is taking advantage of over you. The Cirrus action. You will exhaust and add a longship to replace one family member of another player with one of your own color that matches the same talent and state that their family member was in. This action is powerful, so it uses a longship in addition to perform. This action helps you to remove other players, but also gain the same family member they were possibly going to use, and you might be able to then flip it and do what they were going to do if it was exhausted for the next round. If it's not exhausted, then you can do that action in the same round with your new family member. Players will continue taking turns performing one action of different strengths at a time until each player has performed 4 total actions in that round. Rounds will continue until either 12 rounds have finished, or if a player gets 2 future achievement standees, the golden ones. Then the game will end immediately. During the game, if you want to place a family member but you have none in your supply, you can move a family member already in play on the map or on the ancestry board to put it in a new location. And just FYI, components are limited to the ones included in the game. In-game scoring is then done after the trigger to the end of the game. You gain 2 influence for each venture where you have majority, 4 influence for each advanced achievement standee, 6 influence for each epic achievement, and 8 influence for each future achievement. Then influence is gained according to each obtained and completed mission card, and influence from any venture abilities. The player with the most influence then wins the game. You can also play the game solo and play against a bot or even 2 bots. There is a co-op version where you can play 2 players versus 2 bots. So if those variants interest you, you can play the game in different ways. And remember, the game can be played with 1 to 6 players. And so that's Vendel the Viking. I actually haven't played any of the PAX games yet. I do have a copy of PAX Viking that will be reviewed here shortly, but just keep that in mind while I give you my thoughts. So the first thing that I just really like about Vendel the Viking is how the rules and how to play the game is pretty straightforward. You can read the rule book and know how to play the game, but you will not have a feeling of how the game works or flows, but that will come with time. So with saying that, it really means that the game is an experience, because just because you know the rules and how to play doesn't give you the true feeling of this game. You just have to find and feel the choices when playing the game. You will find and feel those missed opportunities as well, and the excitement when a formidable card flips over and is exactly what you need or want. But you still don't want to let all other players know that, because you want to drive the price down in the market or have other players drive the price down for you. It's really a game that you need to experience to know what you like or not like about the game. So for me, in my first game, the required planning due to the ancestry board was a little more important than I had thought. Growing a wide base with 3 family members with talents all next to each other will give you just room to grow and expand, not needing one specific family member with a certain talent as you go. But when you focus and start expanding outwards without expanding widthwise, then you will get pinned down to needing specific family members of a specific talent in order to expand. But it's also okay to know that you want and in what order. I would sometimes repeat in my head the order that I want to invest actions in. Warrior, Cirrus, Shipwright, Warrior, Cirrus, Shipwright, Warrior, Cirrus, Shipwright, while I'm playing the game. In this case, I needed a Warrior to take the silver achievement, to then place a Cirrus to get the gold achievement, and then I wanted the Shipwright out because it was one of my mission cards. But I wanted them in that order. But I started planning these actions out, and so I was ready to do the invest actions in that order as well. And so I could get the correct family members in the correct locations in the time to do it, to do those invest actions. And yes, it takes planning, but sometimes you will get a sweet setup where an ability from a family member or from a venture tile, or more likely from an achievement, will set you up for an invest action you previously weren't going for, but why not? Or sometimes a better formidable card will pop out and you're like, oh wow, that's the one I want. I really need that one right now. So the game has planning and some on-the-spot redirections. It has player interaction, which can feel aggressive for some maybe, but usually it's not, I'm going to do this just because, though it can be like that. But usually it's more of I really need to invest in that location to get that formidable card before another player does, and it turns into a little battle to have everything set up to invest between the players. But the Cirrus and the Warrior will add some of those changes to the game. Money is needed throughout, so you can spend it on the formidable cards, but there are lots of venture cards giving you ways to gain money. You have the merchant ability as well to help you with that, and depending on how you plan or how you take your actions, you might struggle having money throughout the game, or you might find a cash action that you just keep taking advantage of that you never have any money problems with. After placing cards out on your family board and unlocking more family member tokens, you will have more certain types. Those are warriors, the shipwrights, and the merchants. If you look at the ancestry board, those 3 are not next to each other, but you will most likely have a focus expanding near those areas or next to them, because the other 3, the Cirrus and the settlers and the leaders, you only have a total of 3 of those each. So to get to the gold achievements, you will need to take advantage of unlocking additional family members to grow outwards. So the variety. So family tree player boards change from game to game. Different formidable cards will randomly come out each game. Different venture tiles will come out randomly at different times. So although the overall feeling and experience of the game might be similar, the cards and the abilities are different. The player who changes how they play the game compared to what is available will do better than the player who takes the same strategy each and every single time. The last thing I want to mention is that you want to get family members onto the board, because when you invest, you'll be taking those family members off of the board. And this will change majorities. It will change presence. And if you take your only family member that is in a region off of the board because you invest with them, well then later on, you will have to pay more actions to gain presence back into that region. Different abilities might also help make that not a big a deal, but without tiles that do that, you might want to journey a family member into that region before investing the other one out. So the other thing which is cool is that you can play the game of PAX Viking after you finished a game of Vendel Viking, making it sort of like a campaign game. The end state of Vendel to Viking affects the starting state of PAX Viking, and here's how. You will add this map piece to the map board so that the art lines up. When seeding the deck, add from the new PV tiles 1 God, 2 Advocates, 4 Events, and 4 Ventures, regardless of player count. And the winner of the Vendel to Viking is the new starting player for PAX Viking. So then the Jarls a player can choose from is determined by the advanced and epic achievements that they gained in Vendel to Viking. Each Jarl in PAX Viking, including the 3 new ones that are included in this game, is associated with one of the advanced epic achievements instead of randomly assigning Jarls. You can choose a Jarl from one of the achievements that you have taken during Vendel to Viking. You will then use this table to see what your options would be. Now, there are also special additional abilities which come with each future achievement game during Vendel that can be used during PAX Viking. Each player who has taken 1 or 2 achievements will take its special ability tile during setup, and if they want, they can add it to any of the 4 circles on their player board. This would replace whatever is covered up by the special ability for the entire game. In addition, in each region, if one player alone has more majorities in that region than any other player, this player randomly selects a venture tile among the ones not used in the saga pile or track. The region and wind are matched like this. For each Germanic Ocean, randomly select a West Venture. For the Gandvik, I think I said that right, randomly select an East Venture. And for the Riverlands, randomly select an East Venture. Place it in its wind and place the player's corresponding follower and longship on it. This is done in addition to the and before ventures based on player count are added into the PAX Viking setup. And then money that you start with is based on the amount of points held at the end of Vendel according to this table. Then players will continue with a game of PAX Viking, which I will actually be reviewing shortly. Remember, I haven't played it, so if that sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, you know why. But I'm excited to check it out. Ultimately, I think Vendel to Viking is great. I'm a fan of that mid and to heavy complexity area, and this one hits it right there in that spot. Not too complex where I'm checking the rule book all the time, but not too simple where I don't have to think or I don't feel that weight of weighing several options while playing the game. So take advantage of your family members and their talents with your family and friends in Vendel to Viking by Ion Game Design. Again, this is Board Game Brody, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.